Anyway, Happy New Year and welcome. Hope everybody had a great holiday.
And thank you, Terry, for, he hosted a very nice, lovely event for us for the holidays.
Yeah.
Missed most of you, so,
Yeah.
but thank you very much, Terry. That was
It's always a good time. We enjoy doing it.
And
It's
I
always
enjoy
good
being
time.
there, so
Yeah.
thank you.
Good. Okay, yeah, real quick, hopefully you have the minutes in front of you. Just please take a moment to look over them and looking for any corrections to anything on the minutes.
One.
So if there's not any corrections, a motion to approve the minutes from the November 20th, 24 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Zach, a second. Second by Ron. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, good. Okay. So next we'll move to our guest staff speakers. This is really from WMPO, talking about the Wilmington Downtown Trail. Amy, you want to introduce or?
Sure. Abby Lorenzo is with us she's number 2 in charge at the NPO.
Hi, she brought a friend. I'm Carolyn. I'm an associate transportation planner at the WMPO.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about the Wilmington Downtown Trail. Okay, well,
Thank you. Oh, there we go.
So our presentation tonight, we were asked by Sally to come and just provide an update on efforts surrounding the downtown trail. So going to give a really brief refresher on the history of the downtown trail, talk about the downtown trail phase 1 efforts, as well as the feasibility study that's ongoing for downtown trail phases 2 and 3, and then really what the project next steps are for both phase 1 and 2 and 3. So the downtown trail, as we know it today, was identified in the 2013 New Hanover County City of Wilmington Comprehensive Greenway Plan. It was identified as the #1 priority for the city of Wilmington. And at that time, it was a 5.9 mile long trail connecting the goods and services of downtown Wilmington with some of the north side neighborhoods and down Mill Creek corridor to Forest Elementary School. It was seen as another opportunity to connect portions of Wilmington with the River to Sea Bikeway, Cross City Trail, and other established facilities in the city of Wilmington. So since its identification back in 2013 and the Greenway Plan, there have been some efforts to get this project moving, if you will. In 2015 through 2017, there were some staff-led efforts to design and build a first portion of the downtown trail. This was the portion within the Gulch corridor, the geographically depressed area where rail used to enter the city of Wilmington. Also during that time, the city worked with its local elected delegation to get legislative authority to utilize the rail corridor for a future trail. And then in 2019, 2020, the city council basically designated the Friends of the Wilmington Rail Trail, which is a community group, to figure out how to make the Wilmington Rail Trail, which is the first portion of the downtown trail, a reality. And so they approached both the city and WMPO in 2020 and helped to develop the Rail Trail Master Plan. So looking specifically at a trail within the corridor between 3rd Street and McCrae Street. And then in 2021, after the adoption of this master plan, the city moved forward with applying to the WMPO for funding to design what is known as phase 1 of the downtown trail. which limits are from Third Street all the way out to the Love Grove Bridge in Love Grove. So design began in 2022. I'm going to go to the next slide. We'll just talk about the breakdown of the downtown trail. We've been referring to it as phase 1, phases 2, phases 3. So phase 1 is on the left-hand side of the screen, starting at Third Street, traveling through still NCDOT owned corridor, abutting the Dorothy Johnson Pre-K property, crossing over into Love Grove across the tracks on King Street, through Archie Blue Park and terminating at the new Love Grove Bridge. Phases 2 and 3 pick up at the Love Grove Bridge or Archie Blue Park that's being studied right now, paralleling the Burnt Mill Creek corridor, crossing Market Street through Wallace Park, and ending at Forest Hills Elementary School. So continuing to talk about phase 1, it is funded for design, and that design kicked off back at the end of 2022. The goal of this project is really to activate a new space in the north side of the downtown, as well as to collaborate with the community to celebrate both arts and cultural assets. There's opportunities, of course, to fill gaps in our existing sidewalk network, as well as provide a safe transportation facility for communities that have a lower than average, regional average rate of car ownership or households living in poverty. And then, of course, overall goal is to improve safety. So as I mentioned, design kicked off in late 2022. The proposed alignment of the trail shares space with both NCDOT owned property in the old rail corridor between 3rd and McRae, as well as was proposed to cross CSX owned property further up here where 11th turns into King Street. Because of the railroad ownership of significant amount of the land in which we envision this trail crossing, there's been a significant amount of coordination and collaboration over the past 2 years to really nail down that final alignment, the final location of the trail on those specific properties. With NCDOT Rail, we worked for 18 months. And when we approached them, they were overwhelmingly in support, as they had been during the development of the Rail Trail Master Plan, to share this space with a trail. However, they also have plans to someday hopefully bring back passenger rail service to Wilmington. So they wanted to make sure that our effort complemented their future efforts. And so they actually invested in coming up with a concept for track layout in this corridor in the future so that our trail could be put in its ultimate final location and wouldn't hopefully not be disturbed in the future when rail comes back to Wilmington. Mentioned that CSX owns a portion up near Love Grove. We are continuing conversations with CSX. You'll see that there's 2 kind of alternatives to make that turn. The original alternative is to stay off-road, and it does sound as of early this week that CSX is moving forward with that, so that's good news. And now, once we've established the final alignment, the final location, we're going to be able to press go on the rest of the design and hopefully have something in the next 12 to 14 months. Knowing that we kicked this off back in 2022 and that the community hadn't really heard much about it for a while, over the summer, we did spend some time doing a little bit of public outreach. We attended a Northside Co-op dinner, as well as had an event in Archie Blue Park, just to provide an update on where we were with the project, that it was still happening, that we were still very excited about it, and also to ask the public how they intended to use the trail in the future, get any feedback on amenities they might like to see, et cetera. Positive feedback was received. A lot of people said they would use it for recreation, but almost as many said that they would use it as a means to get to local businesses in the area. And as it's proposed, it will provide a direct connection to the future grocery store that is planned in the North Side community. And that was specifically called out in a few of the comments we received. So that was very exciting to hear. The trail, once it's designed, will be, depending on where along the alignment, 10 to 12 feet in width, and it will be a paved trail. Amenities we heard, obviously the usual amenities that you'd expect to see, such as trash receptacles, benches, as well as, given the geographic aspects of the first part of the trail, as well as towards the end and in the Love Grove section, in the woods, there has been an emphasis, we heard from both the public and from members of the city, the need for lighting. So lighting is being considered as part of design. So just briefly want to share some schematics that we shared with the public over the summer, helping them to really envision what this is going to look like someday. The first is on the left-hand side is a picture on the property abutting the Dorothy B. Johnson Pre-K Center, and on the right is what in the future that could look like. Down below, a picture of Railroad Street. So this is in the Love Grove neighborhood after you cross the railroad and turn right. Due to where the CSX property line is, and CSX not allowing for a trail within their right of way, we are looking at having to convert Railroad Street to a one-way section. But this will allow for a dedicated trail, and that's seen on the right-hand side of the screen. And then the last picture we have up here on the left-hand side, that is the Current Gulch corridor, standing between 5th and 6th Streets, looking to the south, back towards the downtown. On the right is the top right, I'm sorry, is a picture of what this could look like once the trail is built. Kind of an intermediate step before, hopefully, one day in the future, passenger rail service comes back into the city of Wilmington. And so that bottom graphic kind of represents what that would look like to a user of the trail. So I'm going to stop here and see if there are any questions on phase one before I hand it off to Carolyn. At the end of the presentation, we are going to give an update on kind of next steps for everything.
Do we want to wait for questions for after Carolyn talks? And she said, yeah, why don't we just do that?
Sure. So I'll talk about phases 2 and 3, which are currently the subject of an ongoing feasibility study. So we'll show you a map on the next slide, but the goals of this feasibility study are to establish an alignment, a preferred alignment or routing for phases 2 and 3 of this trail. We're also looking at potential treatments for roadway crossings that the trail would traverse, and potential amenities that would be on the trail. Next slide, please. So here's a reminder of what the study area looks like. So on the left in the black is phase 1 that Abby just went over. And then the study area is these red and purple lines here. So phase 2 starts up at One Tree Hill Way with the Love Grove Bridge. And then it goes down to Market Street. And then phase 3 would start at Market Street and then extend down to Forest Hills Elementary. Next slide, please. For study timeline, in spring of 2023, the WMPO applied for and was awarded funding from NCDOT's Integrated Mobility Division, IMD. They had a paved trails and sidewalks feasibility study grant program to kick all this off. So in summer, the development of this feasibility study began with a steering committee, and then we kicked off public engagement phase 1 in fall of 2023, where we were asking the public about opportunities and concerns along the corridor for phase 2 and 3, what they might be using the trail for, their visions for the trail, that kind of thing. In summer of 2024, we conducted public engagement phase 2. So we brought to the public alternatives for the trail alignment, to see what their preferences were, picking those, as well as asking them about what their crossing needs were. So there are 4 crossings on the map, and I'll show you on the next slide too. To ask what's people's comfort level with how it currently is, what would make them more comfortable to cross there. Maybe are they using strollers, mobility devices, et cetera, just to get a better snapshot of who's crossing. And then we anticipate for the study to be wrapped up in winter of 2025 with the final report and pursuing adoption. Thank you. So it was separated into 4 focus areas for ease of public engagement and for analyzing potential constraints with each focus area. So focus area 1, you can see going up from Blunt Grove to Shirley Road, focus area 2 extending to Market Street, and then 3 and 4 taking you down to the phase 3 there at the end with Forest Hills Elementary. Public engagement. So we heard from many people. We went to the community at least twice in person with events. We also had an online survey and a webpage for people to be able to weigh in and provide their comments. And what we heard was big concern for the cypress trees in Mary Bridgers and Bullock Parks. People were able to rank their priorities for this trail, whether that would be commuting to work, school, or shopping, or maybe using it for recreation. And the number 1 priority was preserving natural resources. So I thought that would be of note to this committee here. So we also heard that most people who were surveyed prefer a new bridge from Archie Blue Park. As on the previous slide, there was that little pink spur that went to Archie Blue in the focus area 1. People are generally not comfortable crossing Market Street or Princess Place Drive as they are now without treatments. And then many respondents would use the trail for accessing parks and recreation and for recreation. So walking, jogging, biking, dog walking, things like that. Next slide, please. This is some of the boards that were taken to the public during phase 2, so summer of 2024, where we were asking about alignment preferences. So you can see like alignment A and B, there was the bridge option from Archie Blue Park as B. And we presented how the trail might look in comparison to where the creek is with these little cutaways here, as well as some of the evaluations that have been done over the course of this study, including environmental constraints and equity and costs. Next slide is the same deal. So here it is for focus area 3 and 4 for phase 3. Next slide, please. And here's our next steps. I'll kick it back to Abby to talk about phase 1.
Yeah, so next steps, I mentioned earlier this week, we have heard some good news from CSX. So it does seem that we are about to be good to go on the final location of phase 1. And we'll hopefully have design finished in the next 12 to 14 months. Phase 1 is only funded for design currently. And since being funded for design and ongoing now and will continue, staff is continuing to look for how we are going to pay for the next steps, which are any right-of-way needs and construction. So that will be continuing, but in the project process, the further along you are, the more competitive your project comes. So grant opportunities, thinking outside the box on how we're going to fund it, it's all on the table, and hopefully we'll have a very good competitive project to secure some of that funding moving forward.
For phases 2 and 3, like I said, the feasibility study is wrapping up, so we're anticipating the final report to be available soon. Once that's finalized, we'll be pursuing adoption for the WMPO board and city council. And when the feasibility study is adopted, we'll have some extra for applying for grants and securing funding for design, right of way, and construction. So looking good.
We'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
That was a great presentation.
Yes.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Was there any expectation portable bathrooms or anything along the side or anything like that? Or is it a security issue? Is that ever thought about?
Restroom facilities, really it had only been discussed at kind of the trailheads.
Okay. Good. And as part of that trail, the Wrightsville Beach Marathon, now that comes through, isn't that part of the trail where they enter and come into the city? Isn't that what they're using that for
The
now?
Wilmington Marathon, yes, I believe this past year for the first one, you
Yeah,
did use that.
use that.
The old rail corridor.
I got one more, but I don't want to keep jumping in if anybody has anything. When I went to the public engagement, the only thing, the termination at Forest Hills, you can almost spit to Burnt Mill Creek. And I was really thinking, to extend it, you would truly have a river to the sea path and go all the way out to Wrightsville Beach. Is there any thought or any talk or comment about, connecting from right there at the termination at that park at Forest Hills to get to Burnt Mill Creek, which would cross, what is that, Randall or whatever that street is?
Right.
So phase 3 does connect to the Cross City Trail, which.
It does?
Yes.
Okay. So you could get to a phase 3 does.
Yep.
Okay, great. That's wonderful.
This showed it stopping at Forest Hills. Where does it hit the Cross City?
So
The actual Greenway, downtown Greenway Trail in the comprehensive plan connects
Goes-
to
Connects
the
to
Cross City Trail.
Okay.
Which is on part. So, do you want to bring up our first slide? So the Greenway plan actually proposed that connection through a combination of.
Like this.
So the connection to the River to Sea Bikeway on Park Ave would be provided through shared lane markings, and then there's an
Wow.
existing sidewalk network. So that's what's proposed.
And would there be any signs that it's going to be bike and ped that, like bikes on the right or something and something designated or anything like that? Just a suggestion, that, bikes stay on the right, pedestrians on the left or that type of thing, so, just suggestion, yeah.
So we can, and certainly as we are designing, and I believe the city has some standards for their multi-use path facilities, so we would have those.
We actually had a meeting about that.
Did you really? In your head, yeah, good.
The timeline for approval of the phase 2 and 3 signs?
We're expecting the final report to come over the next few weeks. So we'll review that and I don't remember exactly when we were shooting for adoption. Was it March?
Yeah, I think we're really expecting that report anytime now, so we'll take a look at it, and pending no major changes, we'll get it before the WMPO board as well as city council as soon as we can.
And is the Bikes and Peg Advisory Board kind of involved in all this with WMPO as far as their input and stuff?
So our Bike Ped committee, not specifically to this project, of course, they've been updated on these efforts, invited to be a part of public outreach, as well as I think we've had a few members serving on the steering committees for this plan, as well as advising when we get back to design on the phase 1 as well.
This is Joe. I'd like to ask a question. Where does this trail fall in the priorities of all the other trail work that's being done in the city? Or is there an overall priority for all the trails?
I can help, I can answer that for the city, rather than put the MPO on the spot since they're multi-jurisdictional. The downtown Greenway that they overviewed today was the #1 ranked priority out of 2013 comprehensive Greenway plan using a matrix of agreed upon criteria. So it's the #1 priority in the planning stages. Of course, there are still greenways that were identified as part of the 2014 city transportation bond that are still in construction, the Greenville Loop Trail and finishing the Masonboro Trail. So while there are some that are ahead of this one in terms of design and construction, this one would be the highest priority in the planning phase right now.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, appreciate it, thank you. All right, so moving on to old business, update on Sam Goins Memorial Field, January 7th. Oh, yeah, so we had a meeting, so yeah, there they go.
That's, yep, really quick update. We're really excited to have, for city council to have approved that naming. So, Robert Strange Park Ball Field 1 is now going to be the Sam Bowens Memorial Field. And, we've been working with the applicant, and actually Andrea Talley is with us here tonight, works on cultural programming. We're going to be working with the applicant on signage and a naming ceremony. And so there'll be more to come on that, on the timing. I think there's some different opportunities, maybe late in the spring or even in the fall where we'll target that. So I just want to say thanks to the board for their support on it.
Good.
And it's finally a done deal.
Good, 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 good. Our February and March meeting, you know, we need to revisit, we've been talking about it and putting it off, just our annual work plan. I would invite everybody to please revisit the plan. How many years ago? 2 years ago? We put that-
It's been.
Yeah, 2 years ago, to look at it. And the idea is to look at what that work plan was. And we're going to try and assess what we've accomplished and what we didn't to move forward. I know we've got new members on the board. If you don't have a copy of that plan, reach out to Sally and get that. But please be prepared to look at that so we can really jump on that and get that knocked out for the February and March meetings. Okay?
Sally, can you send that out to all of us?
Yes.
Even the old and new?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Good.
could I ask another question in that area?
Yeah.
Not having been involved in the development of the existing work plans, I would wonder is it necessary or possible for us to be briefed by the city on the strategic plan that the department follows and also the city's work plan? So we can align what we plan to do, hopefully with what their goals and objectives are.
We can do that, sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. That's a good point. Great. Yeah, that's great. Okay. Update on Riverfront Park and activation?
So I heard you'd asked about this in the last meeting and I have some bullet point
Okay.
updates. So I
Good.
think I'll just email it to you
Okay.
in the interest of time. Does
Okay.
that work?
Yep, yep, that's fine, yeah. And for some of you, you know, the Riverfront Park, it was kind of brought to the board, just what other uses could be used out there and everything for, you know, public, you know, groups, Boy Scouts, you know, we just brainstormed and came up with some ideas. So we're just trying to revisit some of these things that we've talked about to see. So Sally will get us and, you know, an email with those bullet points. Okay. New business. We have a grant application that we are asked for approval of. And this is North Carolina State Parks Accessible, and this is the Fit for Fun Center, right? That's on 10th Street. And it's been, 10, 15 years, I think, since, you know, there's been any repairs to the external playground area and everything. And that's a time frame that needs to be done. So we want to hear a little bit about that if we can. So thank you. Yeah.
So I'm Andrea Talley. I'm the cultural program specialist for the Parks and Recreation Department. And also the grant writer. So those are my two hats. And I'm here to actually talk to you about both of those things. But first, the grant application to the North Carolina Accessibility for Parks grant. Like you mentioned, this playground is actually 22 years old. And the playgrounds are typically recommended to be replaced within the 15 to 20 year timeframe. And this one gets a pretty high volume of use. So it is aging. And the Accessibility for Parks grant provides funding to create accessible parks and recreation spaces. So this is a great opportunity for us, not just to update this playground, but to update it with an accessible playground. The Fit for Fun Center is often used by recreational therapists who, you know, meet families there, and then their children can experience play on all of the different equipment that they have here. Just a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with the Fit for Fun Center? Okay, so most of you. So it's a play center for ages 0 to 5 for children and their adults and families. So it's not just a drop-off center. They go and play with their adults there. And like I mentioned, sometimes recreational therapists will meet people there and work on the indoor and outdoor equipment that they have there. So this grant in particular addresses the outdoor equipment. You all have been given an information sheet. The information is pretty brief. I think Sally emailed it as well for those who are online. There is a picture on this information sheet, and this is not finalized. This is a rendering of what it could look like. We do hope to maintain the shade that we have there currently, so we probably won't have the umbrellas that are shown here, or at least not all of them. We had a public meeting on Monday that was during another event that they were having at Fit for Fun, and received some good input. We actually had a recreational therapist that came in and visited and got some great input from her. As part of the application, we are required to meet with several organizations who advocate for people with disabilities. So that will be another great opportunity to get input about the design and what elements people definitely want to see with that. So I'm just here to inform you about the application and see if anybody has any questions, and hopefully receive your support for the application. Any questions?
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Manifest is happy.
Thank you.
Zach, didn't we have a meeting there
We did.
internally? And the only thing it seems like I remember from that meeting, and I can't remember who the director was or who.
Victoria.
Okay, was it? Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, it's been a while. But it seemed like at that time, there was a lot of need for internal maintenance, painting and things like that. Has that been addressed or? what's the-
A lot of that is.
Has been, has it? Okay, good.
And Andrea, when you say that you are looking for our support, do you need something like kind of formal
We're
to
looking
take?
for a vote.
Okay, a vote. So who wants to?
Go for it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, right. Any other discussion?
I would just be curious, is there any need to make this larger, a larger facility with, the growing population, especially younger population? Is it worth exploring a larger facility than
By facility, do you mean playground?
just playground? Is there
Yeah,
room for
so,
that?
this shows, there's a fence area in this image. The current playground, the surface is maybe 2/3 pour in place, which is like a rubberized surface, and then the rest is grass. So in this image, it shows the pour in place being extended throughout the whole area. So this is slightly bigger and it's adding swings and maybe a couple more elements. So it is going to be a little bit bigger.
And I can't remember, is there a fee? When people
There's a
come here?
fee to get into Fit for Fun Center, but they are part of the Museums for All program. So families that do qualify for Museums for All can get in for any number of visits in a year for free. But the fee is only $5 per child. Parents are free, or caretakers are free, so it's, and then they also have half-year memberships and full-year memberships. So if you are paying it, it can work out to like $2. So that's it.
Any other questions? Okay, I guess we need a motion on the floor, in support of, the grant.
Motion in support of the grant.
Motion, by Zach. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ingrid. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, good, great,
Thank you.
great, good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to announce the mural?
Do you want me to do that now?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So the other sheet that I provided to everybody and can be emailed to those who are online, it's the cultural programs flyer. This has almost all of our cultural programs for the spring. And there's one side for families and one side that is general population. And you'll see on the top of both of those are the mural painting events, because they are open to everybody, families and general population. And we have one painting coming up this Saturday. It's going to be at the Fit for Fun, at the MLK Fun Day, which is going to be at Maids Park this year because of the construction at the MLK Center. So during the MLK Fun Day, you guys are all welcome to come. It's a free event. They have vendors and booths and activities for families. So we'll be there painting the Maids Park mural, which is going to be celebrating the history and current uses of the Davis River. And the Maids Park in general. So the history of Maids Park is it was formerly a peanut farm. It was donated to the city by the Maids family so that it could be used for recreation for the residents who live nearby. So there will be an image of a farm on the bottom left. And then it's going to be some hexagons with different sports that people have enjoyed there over the years. And then in the center, is an image of Derek Davis, who the Davis Center was named after. And then there will also be kind of a rendering of the current building. It's very colorful. It also celebrates the status of Wilmington as the bee city. And because of the hexagons, and it'll also have some bees on there as well. So you guys are all welcome to come help us paint that. And probably in about a month to 6 weeks from now, we'll be doing an unveiling and you all will be welcome to attend that as well. And then the next, it's actually 2 murals that we're working on for the Sherrill Morgan Fitness Center, which is the fitness center that's right adjacent to the Fit for Fun Center. That center was named after Sherrill Morgan, who is a veteran and pretty much a lifelong boxing coach. And he worked for the Parks and Rec department for many years. Amy and I both knew him back in the day. So we're working with the Veterans Creative Arts Program to design those murals and with Mr. Morgan's family. They've had a lot of input and they're very excited for these murals. There's going to be 2 different 8x4 aluminum murals that will be on the wall where behind the punching bags. So just for a visual, I think that's probably about 8x4. And so those will both be celebrating the life and the various community efforts of Sherrill Morgan. And so we have 2 public painting dates for that. And then we'll also be working on that with the Veterans Creative Arts Program that we have every Tuesday at Maids Park. And we'll also have a big unveiling for those planned in April where his family is planning to come from all over the country. So very excited about that. And this just came up today. Hopefully you all are familiar with the mural that's at the MLK Center. It has Martin Luther King on the left side and Mr. Murphy, Coach Murphy on the right side. It drew the attention of CBS Sports nationally because they will be filming the UNCW or broadcasting the UNCW game on Monday on Martin Luther King Day, and they want to highlight that mural as part of the broadcast. So we're working on getting them some footage to share that mural with the whole country.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, next up is an update and I'll say this kind of for Joe and some of the new members. A year or 2 ago, the ball field at Empey Park was not in use anymore. And so our advisory board sent a letter to city council to ask them to at least look at the feasibility of possibly using that property or part of it for pickleball uses. We sent that, they're doing a feasibility study, and that's what we're here to talk about today, the update, because I think there was water, water and sewer issues and that type of thing, right? So, I mean, that's what we want to get updated on.
Sure. So this is a stormwater permitting analysis. Again, this did come up, I would say, 1.5 years ago. In regard to requests from the pickleball community to consider adding pickleball courts at Empey Park. There is a green space available at Empey. Obviously, it's a very well-used park with many different elements, mainly comprising the Althea Fitness Complex, but also picnic shelters, playgrounds, shuffleboard, bocce, Cross City Trail runs through it. And so what city staff recommended as a first step was to analyze the current stormwater permit file. So we hired, because there was concern because it is so heavily built out, that was really what staff saw as a first step in terms of feasibility to see if anything could be added to MP that would add impervious area. So we hired WK Dixon, which is a local engineering firm that we've worked with frequently. They were actually the engineer of record for the tennis complex. So again, they analyzed the stormwater permits on file. They compared those with the as-built of all the recent projects that have been developed out there, looked at the topography and the soils. And with all of that, we're able to provide the city with study results. And so basically the green space that's out there, if you can visualize it, and I'll send the full report out to the entire board. But if you can picture the tennis courts at MP on the northernmost side, which would be the Caswell Drive, Wrightsville Avenue side, that's where the green space is, which is currently used for a variety of passive activities and is also used as the staging area when there are large tournaments at the tennis complex. That's about 1.7 acres.
Amy, they've all got, I passed out that same packet I gave you. The last page of that 3-page packet shows the aerial of the space she's talking about now.
Okay, so, so there was a document that the pickleball community put together as a possible concept. I just saw it tonight, so to be honest with you, I don't know what all it says, but it does have a good diagram on the back. And so again, this is about 1.7 acres of green space. The study did come back with good news that with the existing capacity and the stormwater facilities that are out there, about 35,000 square feet of that 1.7 million acres can take impervious surfacing, so future impervious development without creating a new stormwater treatment area. So 35,000 feet is almost half of that 1.7 acres. So again, that was our first step. Staff's not recommending to do anything with the site at this time. Obviously, when it comes time and we have resources available to do anything additionally at the park, the first thing we would do is party and public engagement campaign. As you know, that's what we do at the city. You saw it there in the Greenway presentation. But as the board knows, currently, the city's not accepting any new capital project programs in the plan. And we've got several, backed up aging athletic infrastructure projects that we're waiting to be slotted and programmed into the city's CIP. But the good news is that we have this information now. We know what we can do with 35,000 square feet. And again, I'm happy to send the study out to the board.
Right.
Question. It's great. I mean, it's great. It's been over a year. You'll all see there's a resolution that this group here did that got this going, and just takes a while, I understand. But what can be done to get the commitment of the city without funding? I understand that completely. Because if we can get the commitment, and I'm speaking from as a pickleball player or the pickleball club, which got half the members or officers here, but what can be done? Because the pickleball club is positioned, I think, to offer some funding, and also fundraising, but they can't do it unless they know there's a project. I mean, is there some step we can take, either as this board or whoever, to get the city just to say, yes, we're going to dedicate 35,000 square feet to pickleball, so that then other sources can come in and maybe help move. This diagram, a player in town did it just to show the mass you could do. And obviously that's much bigger than but we could get formal drawings done. We could, like I say, raise money, so forth and so on. Is there some step that you can tell us? Because when we first started this, that's where we were going. We asked to get it dedicated, and I understand we rolled back to the feasibility. But is there a step to take that we can get that commitment so that other sources can be looked at, funding can maybe take place?
Well, and let me jump in on that. And Zach, I know you were really involved in this. Our letter to the advisory board was to consider pickleball, but really it was best use of this, this area right here. So our recommendation to the city council was not specifically only for, we wanted them to consider pickleball. We felt that because of the signatures and the growing popularity of pickleball, but really it had to be considered the best use of that space. Is that pretty much what the gist of, what we sent to the?
Yeah, I think that's where we got back to it.
Yeah.
From the initial rollout.
Yeah.
So as you said, a rollback
Yeah.
to something that was,
Yeah.
I think we unanimously agreed on it at
Yeah.
that point, which I know we don't have to unanimously agree.
Yeah.
But it was a good foot forward for the group to support the feasibility study.
So Amy, I kind of put it to you. Where is that process best use? I understand what Ron's saying, wants a commitment, but I guess the city council or maybe staff will look at it and say, yeah, pickleball would be good, but maybe there's something else. Kind of where is that in the whole,
Yeah, highest
Thanks.
best use would be first and foremost consulting our comp plan, especially since
right.
it's so recently adopted.
Yeah.
And then also performing more public engagement.
engagement?
I just have not known council to take the step of a commitment to something without funding in place. So I don't have a good answer to your question. It's not a next step that I would recognize city council in making. Because without the funding, there really isn't a commitment.
Well, and I understand. From my perspective, I hear what you're saying, but with the commitment, at least the commitment would be almost along the lines of saying it would be the best use, considering what knowledge we all have of everything. That would be the best use of that property. To me, that would be a step forward because we're not there. But that's what I'm want to go a little bit further, but one step at a time. It's best use. So who looks at all those uses, forgetting funding, who just looks at the uses of that property? It's just sitting there for how many years now? 5 years, something like that? 4 or 5 years? Well, it's just there, but okay. But who looks at that part of this idea of best use of any property anywhere?
Staff, starting with Parks and Recreation staff up to the city manager and then ultimately
Sure.
recommendation to city council.
So is there anything this committee can do with the proper resolution to whoever to look into that, to actually take a step forward?
I would say that's a step I'm not comfortable with. As everyone, I know I have a vote in this, but I don't think we have a very focused, dedicated, passionate group before us, but there's several other folks that have those passions, and whether they equal 754 signatures or some number of that, their passion is no less deep than what we have for that. And if this group decides to take this as a vote, I understand that, but
Well, I'm not asking to do the dedication. I'm just saying to somebody to take this step forward to find out. It may come back, we need more park space for, accessible for playgrounds. I don't know. But until that's done,
But I think it has been done with the comprehensive
Plan.
plan.
Yeah.
and that's where I would say, I think the step, what you're outlining makes 100% sense. It feels like that's done with a comprehensive plan.
Okay.
And maybe I'm just misguided. My interpretations as, again, a former recreational professional of designing and interpreting comprehensive
Right.
plans and using those or strategic plans, as Joe talked about, to guide decision-making, to make good informed decisions. It feels like that's already in place.
okay.
But I could be wrong on that. So again, I defer to the.
No, you're 100%.
So who looks at that? And is that staff? Okay.
So does the strategic plan currently identify any additional specific activities like pickleball?
There isn't, the comp plan does recommend doing additional individual park master plans. There hasn't been one completed for MP. We've talked about one for MP, but honestly, there are other parks that probably have a greater need for master plans to be conducted because MP is almost entirely built out. So I'm not sure that would rise in terms of a priority. And then again, master plans take funding as well, again, which we don't have anything in the CIP right now, but according to the scientific survey and the comp plan, and again, for those who are really new, our comp plan is just 2 years old, so it's considered fairly recent. The highest priorities for recreation amenities and facilities were greenway trails, farmers market pavilion, natural surface trails, natural open space, water access for canoe, kayak, and boating. The highest priority recreation programs were outdoor movies and concerts, fitness and wellness, senior programs and activities, outdoor adventure programs, and environmental education. And then there's also a priority index. I'll send this out. I'm not sure whether I'm going to be able to find it right now, but it uses a matrix to prioritize new programs and amenities, and pickleball was, so again, high, middle, low, and pickleball was at the high, medium level. So we have to honestly acknowledge that, and also acknowledge, and I'm not here to advocate for or against pickleball at MP.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to be objective about it. The other thing council will realize is that we did, and the tennis community just gave up tennis courts at Greenfield Park to convert those into 6 dedicated pickleball courts. And then, of course, with the Olson Park Phase 2 development, that construction contract was just awarded at the January 7th meeting. That will add 4 new additional pickleball courts. So that's 10 in the course of 2 years. So again, that's just balance that I'm putting out there to just not get anybody's hopes up and just be objective about it.
I got one point. Greenfield, you only added 2 courts. You could play on 4 courts there. The dedicated is now 6, but the original 4, you could play just like we did at Robert Strange with painted on 10.
I think the ask of the pickleball community was dedicated pickleball courts.
Oh, yeah, that's the ultimate goal. We're all playing on painted tennis courts now. Okay. So we're going nowhere. I got it.
And Amy, were we gonna maybe get a consultant to kind of look at this best use or something? Or is that just gonna be internally by staff with the comprehensive plan?
By staff with the comprehensive plan.
Okay.
And again, I
Yeah.
can't reiterate enough. I've been in like 3 different meetings today with different folks, not just internal people. One with the 2 deputy city managers, and they kept saying, it's a bad budget year. This is going to be a net zero budget. So anything that we want in our budget, we have to offload an existing service.
Okay. All right.
Fortunately, that's just where we are right now.
Okay, good. All right. Well, thank you, Amy, for that.
And I will send this out to everybody.
Good. Appreciate that. Yeah, good. Okay, next, under new business, Parks and Rec cost recovery policy and fee schedule, Sally?
Amy will also be over.
Oh, you're doing that?
Let me
Okay,
just ask everyone a question. It's 6:25. Would you prefer that, I'm happy to do this right now, but
Oh, my
would you
gosh.
prefer that
Thank you. I didn't realize that.
we,
Yeah, it is. And we really like to keep this at an hour too. I think we can take a little
it's
time.
not long, and I know that the work plan is very important to y'all, but I also heard that you want an overview of the city's strategic plan.
Sure,
So
sure.
maybe we can do the city's strategic plan and this cost recovery
Okay.
policy in February and get going with your work plan in
Well,
March.
let me ask you this, Sally, can we forego your staff report and maybe cover this and
Yeah,
do that?
yeah,
Let's just do that. Let's just forego and do that and then we'll wrap up.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead. Yeah. No, I'm saying if you wanted to do this, you said it wouldn't take long. If you want to go over this policy and fee schedule and we'll forego her staff report and
I'm with you.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we, engaged a consultant this previous budget cycle, to, undergo a user fee study, something that we wanted to do for a long time, but it was one of the highest recommendations in the comp plan. And so that was the impetus for getting it done, this past budget year. And basically what this does is look at our fee schedule, our fee for service for parks and recreation programs. Obviously, local governments charge fees for services. But the objective was to, review ours and provide recommendations to city management and city council for a cost recovery philosophy, which would inform a cost recovery policy. Next slide.
Mhm.
Oh. Well, it changed for me. It's not changing for you. Here.
So again, here are the objectives to assess all of our programs, look at what our current fee schedule is, consisting of identify cost recovery options and then turn that into an actual policy adopted by city council. And so when we look at a cost recovery policy, rather than look at individual programs and services, which may change over time, we look to categorize these programs. And so this is a very common methodology that's used across the Parks and Recreation industry. And it is a range of traditional, I would say more traditional Parks and Recreation core programs that what we would see is providing a community benefit in terms of basic needs and expectations. And as a Parks and Recreation agency gets larger and grows and evolves, you're able to move into more programs that are at the very top level of the pyramid, which are highly individual benefits.
They become enterprise funds, basically, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tier one, community benefits, again, as I just described, examples of these could be actual parks and green spaces, trails, public open spaces. Then we get into considerable community benefits. And those would still rely heavily on taxpayer dollars, but look to have some taxpayer support. And examples of this could be something like athletic fields, active adult programming, and youth programming. And let me go back to that tier one real quick. So what we would look to achieve in the tier one benefit is a cost recovery. So again, examining our expenses, both direct and indirect. So direct expenses being specific expenses for that program. The expenses wouldn't exist if we didn't have that program. Indirect charges being more administrative charges that we would still have without that program that are spread across the agency. So the target cost recovery for a tier one would be between 0 and 20%. Tier two would be between 20 and 50%. As we get into tier three, which is balanced community and individual benefit, this is the middle tier of the pyramid, and should theoretically have an equal amount of taxpayer support and user fee support. And these services are typically provided by both the public and the private sector, but are typically viewed as public amenities. And examples in this tier could include camps, athletic leagues, and community events and gatherings like our special events, 4th of July and Christmas. And the target recovery for this category should be between 30 and 70%. When we get into the considerable individual benefit, second smallest tier of the pyramid should receive a significant amount of user fee support. These services and programs are almost always also provided in the private sector. And so examples could include tennis lessons, specialized classes, including fitness classes and enrichment, and cultural programs. And then lastly, the individual benefit, which, as Terry pointed out, oftentimes is reaching the level of an enterprise fund, where the revenue should be 100% or greater. These are based on market demand. And examples could include private facility rentals, out-of-town trips, and greens fees for golf courses. And again, those are the recovery tiers that I just listed. And so industry-wide, the average cost recovery is around 25%. The consultant looked at every single activity, service and program that the city of Wellington provided, and our expenses and fees, and determined that we're at about 19%. So we're under the national average. We did exclude Live Oak Bank Pavilion and Greenfield Amphitheater because that just skewed. I mean, obviously, we're doing like 500% recovery there, but those are more seen as cultural performance venues and economic development projects. So it just skewed it. So we did take those out. So we have developed a cost recovery policy that we'll be asking city council to adopt as we move through the budget process for fiscal year 26. And we will strive for that 25% cost recovery and have an aspirational 35% cost recovery. So we're currently going through every single one of our fees and playing with what we are right now and what it would take to raise fees to get to that 25%. If need be, we will 100% do it within steps so that we don't drive people away from our programs, and do it incrementally. And importantly, along with the policy, we'll also be asking city council to formally recognize a fee assistance program, which is important to have as we move towards greater cost recovery. And so we're basing that fee assistance program on lots of benchmark research that we did. I think we're really close to a similar program that the city of Raleigh has. Along with, I think, the city of Fairfax, Virginia, we relied heavily upon there. So there's eligibility criteria for people to be able to provide for that assistance, most heavily geared towards youth programs. And we just feel that's important to promote long-term community, physical, mental, and economic health on a long-term basis. And so we'll bring both with a draft policy and the fee assistance program to you, but as our budget submittal is due January 31st, we wanted to start this conversation here and just sort of get your support on the idea of it and trying to move from that 19% to that 25%, which again is national average.
So this doesn't need a vote or anything. You're just trying to bring it to our attention or something, or?
I mean, again, that was quick and dirty. So if you feel like you have enough information, which is basically, we're asking city council to allow us to adopt that 5-tier methodology and to have a policy where we want to reach the national average, at least in terms of cost recovery.
Live Oak and the amphitheaters, all that excess, obviously they're generally that kind of subsidizes all these other areas, or kind of where does that?
Right now,
profit, if you will,
those funds, so there's fixed rent at both of those facilities that goes to the general fund. There is ticket surcharge, $2 at each place. $1 of that $2 goes to only being spent on those facilities, and $1 goes to the general fund.
So does the policy change that or leave it the same, the draft policy?
Policy does not change anything with Live Oak Bank and the Greenfield Amphitheater. And that's, we're happy that we do have some dedicated funding there. We also have dedicated funding fees at many of our other facilities. Fit for Fun, almost every one of our facilities, Legion, Fit for Fun, a portion of fees that we collect there stay with those facilities and programs and are reinvested in them. The problem with asking city council and really city management and the budget and finance director to divert something that's already going to the general fund, especially when you're talking about the large amount of funding from those two facilities, then they got to make that up someplace else. So that's not going to be a popular ask. One thing I will point out with the request to adopt the policy is we're not listing programs and saying, this tennis lesson belongs in this category and this camp belongs in that category, because we want the flexibility to be able to change those over time as our programs change. So we're just asking them to adopt the methodology and the idea of it, and then again, the percentage that we're trying to get to.
Am I remembering right, when gentleman who spoke to us from the Sherrdale, boxing, wasn't it something like, some of the fees he went into the general fund? It wasn't going back to him? Did I recall
So
that?
every recreation and parks program has fees going to the general fund,
Yeah. that's-
but which is not abnormal.
Okay,
But
okay, yeah, okay.
Every
Yeah.
municipality and county has that.
Right.
A lot of them have more funding that stays with the recreation facilities and reinvested them, but we do that. We started that in 2013.
And have you explored increasing the amount, even just an extra dollar for the
Yes.
pavilion,
Oh,
for Live Oak Pavilion to have it go back to the parks?
no, again, the only way, we are looking at that at other facilities for where we can control pricing. So if we raise, the fee to get into the Fit for Fun Center from $5 to $7, let's take $1 or even $2 of that and have that as a greater amount staying as committed revenue to that facility. We can't control, it's already in our long-term contract with Live Nation that we get $1 or $2 of that ticket revenue. So there's no way for me to change that without diverting those funds from the general fund that are already going in there.
But does Live Nation have the ability to change on their end?
They're not gonna. It's a 15-year contract. so I
Okay.
know that's for us to
That would
say,
be
"Ooh, how
nice."
about we have $3?" I don't know. Renegotiation with contracts.
Okay, so I think we're looking for a motion to endorse staff's petition, if you will, as city council to implement this 5-tier policy. Is that?
Yeah.
What we're looking to,
Methodology.
yeah.
When would you go to city council with the proposition? It sounds like there's more work to get finalized here. Are you?
All right, we've got the draft policy done and obviously the fee study is adopted. So I would track it along with the actual adoption of the budget, which is.
But the only reason I say that, I would like to see something. I mean, I understand that,
I'll send out the draft policy.
before we
I'd
actually.
I'd like to see both the draft policy and the consultant study.
Yeah, you could, well, but they don't have a copy of the consultant study either.
Let me ask you this, though. I mean, this has got to be before January 31st, or when you?
No.
Oh, no. Okay, okay.
Our fee, what we're gonna recommend to change in the fee schedule will be before your next meeting. That'll be by January 31st, but we won't ask city council to adopt the,
Okay, so we can do this
policy.
February. We can do this. You can get it out to us. Okay, good.
What policy do they currently use? Is
there
there,
is none.
there is, like, they don't have a pyramid scheme?
Yeah, okay. All right, so we'll put that on the agenda for February, okay?
Got it.
You'll get it out to us. Great, thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay, good. Look, in essence of time, I apologize. This is unusual. It's 1:45. A motion to adjourn. So moved by Ron, second.
Thanks for getting so much work done today.
I don't get to talk about the holiday parade, right, Zach?
Yeah, that was.
Bring it up in July.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all for coming out. Really appreciate it.